is Melissa Addington, and I teach at West Whitesburg Preschool in Letcher County, and I teach 3, 4, and 5-year-olds in the preschool setting. I have a morning session and an afternoon session, and with my project, I decided to use my 20 students in the morning, so I have 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. So I'm going to go to the next slide, please. My research question was, will the use of iPads aid preschool students in learning mathematical kindergarten readiness skills? And as you can see, I told a little bit about my project. As a preschool teacher, we have to engage students in hands-on learning, and the activities cover the 5 developmental areas such as communication, cognitive, personal, social, and adaptive skills, and motor skills in order to meet the IECE standards. So I wanted to come up with an innovative way for my students to learn and increase their knowledge through the use of technology, and I wanted to address math with my project. So with my money, I bought 2 iPads. I have one iPad that was a teacher iPad in my classroom, and sometimes I borrowed some iPads from my teaching partner, Miss Katrina, so that we could allow each student in my classroom to have at least 15 minutes, 2 days a week on the iPad. And I kept up with that data and made sure that we used check sheets. And of course, as we said, if attendance is bad, we tried to make them up on the other 2 days that they were not there. So we're a 4-day-a-week program, half a day. So we tried to incorporate math apps using PBS Kids, Starfall, some of the other free apps, of course. And to determine the project outcome, we did pre- and post-assessments of shapes identification, of the 4 basic shapes, circle, square, triangle, and rectangle, number recognition, and also one-to-one correspondence using the numbers 1 through 10, which is addressed on the Teaching Strategies Gold assessment. And so if we'll go on, we'll talk about a little bit about the data. This is a picture of my project poster that we began with, and again, it covers some of the information that we were going to be checking. It talks about what our project was about, and I'll go on. And this, I tried to address the early childhood standards and benchmarks according to Teaching Strategies Gold. I looked at Objective 20, use of number concepts and operations, which covered counting, quantifying, and connecting numbers to quantities, and also Objective 21, exploring and describing spatial relationships and shapes, using spatial relationships and understanding those, and understanding shapes. And we tried to link these with kindergarten math Common Core standards, which I didn't put on the slide. That's okay. And I was going to say, first in our room, we had to talk about using the iPads correctly. So this is one of our PowerPoint slides that we had, I think, during one of our webinars. I printed that off and put that in my iPad station and went over the rules with the boys and girls because, of course, we have to know that the iPads can be torn up and we have to be careful and safe for those. So the kids know the rules fairly well now. And I use the iPads in different settings. I use them for whole group and small group instruction. So here's some independent use by 2 of the kids in our quiet area. And we allowed them to sit in different locations in the room. Here's just a couple more slides of the kids. And then the next slide's going to show you like at a group table setting. And I'm working with some 3 and 4-year-olds. Here's a picture of the class, and not everyone was there that day, but at least we got most of the kids that benefited from the use of the iPads, and as I said, we used the 3, 4, and 5s. And in order to keep up with the data, I use data checklist, and this is just a sample of number identification, number 1 through 20, and we would do this 3 to 4 times a year, and it depends on when we, I did this pre-assessment before we got the iPads. And this is the data collection that I used on the one-to-one correspondence, and all of this information and data is gathered and then translated into our Teaching Strategies Gold. And this is the shapes identification. As you can see, you just check the box that they know, and then you can either make a little minus or just leave it blank if they did not know an item. Next, we're going to look at our growth charts, and you have a copy of that in your handout also. And I have noted on there that students 4, 11, 12, 13, 15, 17, 18, 19, and 20 are coded as 97s, which means they're 3-year-olds and will be returning to preschool next year. And if you look at their growth, you can see their pre- and post-assessment, and you can see that there's growth with almost every child there. And in the end, there was 29% growth in the number of students who could recognize their numbers 1 to 10. Here is some data on the shapes. And again, the same students are the 3-year-olds. And we had an overall increase of 27.5% of the class show growth and demonstrate growth in using iPads to increase the recognition of the 4 basic shapes. My last data graph is one-to-one correspondence, and as you can see, student 1 was one of those students that knew everything coming in, and you do have those students, and that's one of my 4-year-olds, of course, but you can also see the growth if you look closely with some of the 4s and the 3s, and there was a 19% growth in one-to-one correspondence using numbers 1 to 10 with my students. And overall, what I learned from my project was it is very hard to explain to 3, 4, and 5-year-olds that you do have a turn. And also taking care of the iPads, using timers, putting them up, keeping them in the appropriate places, not laying them in the floor when you do allow independent time. I enjoyed using it with the class, but I found that it worked better with small group to go over what we were going to do and cover the apps and then let them explore. And sometimes they did peer tutors, and we do have the RTI program, but I don't have pictures of the older kids coming in for that. But I purchased 2 iPads, 2 covers, and the covers are very important, even though I have some students who are fascinated with taking the covers off. And so that was something that we had to work on. And I found that one of the hardest things to do was to keep them charged because I have 2 classes, and I tried to let my afternoon group benefit from that too, and so it was dead iPad quite often. I was going to say, I think that the iPads did aid and increase the knowledge of the students with their mathematical skills, getting ready for kindergarten, and I hope to use these again next year. And just remember that all my students are at risk, so they all have IEPs, or they're based on the income guidelines. So I think this is a great benefit to our school. I would like to have more so that we didn't have to share the 3. Like I said, 2 were bought with the grant and 1 I already had myself. So hopefully we can chime in and be able to get another grant sometime that we can benefit from our students at our school. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, thank you.